All right, let's talk about something that's quietly making AI a whole lot smarter and, honestly, more trustworthy. It's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, but you'll almost always hear it called RAG. Today, we're going to break down exactly what it is and why it matters. So, here's the game plan. First, we're going to talk about a big problem that all large language models have with their knowledge. Then, we'll introduce RAG, which is the really clever solution. After that, we'll peek under the hood and see how it all works, step by step. And finally, we'll see why this whole thing is such a game changer. So, let's get started with the big problem RAG was built to solve. Okay, so here's the core issue. You know how powerful large language models, or LLMs, can seem, but they've got this one huge weakness. They can be super confident and, at the same time, be completely and totally wrong. Let me show you what I mean with a really simple question. Imagine you ask an AI, hey, in our solar system, which planet has the most moons? You'd expect a simple, factual answer, right? Well, not so fast. A standard LLM, one that was trained a couple of years ago, would probably tell you with 100% confidence that the answer is Jupiter. And you know what? For a long time, it was right. But a RAG-enhanced model, well, it gives you the correct answer for today, Saturn, with 146 moons, and it even knows this from current NASA data. This one example perfectly captures the whole problem of a knowledge cutoff. And the reason for that is pretty straightforward. A standard LLM's knowledge is basically frozen in time. It's like a brain that only has one old, dusty textbook to work from. It only knows what was in its training data, and that stuff gets old fast. This leads to outdated answers, or even worse, what we call hallucinations, where the AI literally just makes stuff up because it doesn't know any better. So how in the world do we fix this? Well, this is where RAG steps in. And honestly, the best way to think about it is that RAG basically gives the AI an open book exam. So here's the big idea. RAG is a system that connects a large language model to the outside world, to fresh, up-to-date knowledge. So instead of just trying to remember something from its old training data, the AI can first go retrieve the relevant facts and then use that brand new info to generate a much better answer. And that open book exam analogy, it's really the key to understanding this. A standard LLM is taking a closed book test, right? It's just trying to recall everything from memory. But RAG gives the AI access to the entire library, the internet, a company's private documents, you name it. So it can actually look up the answer before it says a word. And with RAG, the whole picture changes. It can get to live, external information, which means it can give you answers that are grounded in facts, answers you can actually check. And maybe just as important, if it can't find the info it needs in its library, it's way more likely to just say, I don't know, instead of inventing an answer. And that builds a lot of trust. Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. Let's pull back the curtain and see how RAG actually turns a pile of documents into a smart, informed conversation. Now, this diagram shows you the entire RAG pipeline. And I know, it might look a little complicated at first, but I promise it's a really logical flow. It's basically the journey from a collection of documents and your question all the way over to a solid, fact-based response. Let's break down the key steps together. The whole thing really happens in 4 main stages. First, a bunch of documents are broken down into smaller chunks, then they're converted into numbers called embeddings and stored away. Second, your question gets the same treatment. It's also turned into an embedding. Third, and this is the magic retrieval part, the system zips through the database to find the document chunks that are the closest match to your question. And finally, those relevant chunks are tacked onto your original question and handed to the LLM, which then generates an answer using this fresh, new context. So that special place where all those document chunks are stored, that's called a vector database. You can basically think of it as a super-powered library or even a long-term memory for the AI. It's built from the ground up to make that lightning-fast search for relevant information possible. So let's pull all of this together. Why does this technical process matter so much? Well, because it's all about one thing, building AI that we can actually start to trust. And the benefits here are just huge. For starters, RAG dramatically cuts down on those AI hallucinations. It keeps the AI's knowledge up to date without the insane cost and time of retraining the whole model. It lets companies use their own private, secret data securely, and maybe most importantly, it can show you its work. It provides sources for its answers, making everything more transparent, more accurate, and just more relevant.
This quote just nails it. RAG makes AI more accurate, reliable, and contextually relevant, and it does it all while avoiding the need to train the LLM repeatedly on new data. So it's about being smarter and being way more efficient.
And that kind of leads us to a final thought, right? If giving an AI a library is this massive first step, what comes next? What's the next big piece of the puzzle for building AI systems that we can genuinely trust with the important stuff in our lives?
Answering questions just like that is exactly what we explore over in the AI Product Management Playbook. If you want to keep up with the latest thinking on things like agentic AI, digital transformation, and product leadership, I really think you should subscribe.
It's really the best way to stay ahead of the curve in this space. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.